Okay, so we're diving into Don't Believe Everything You Think by Joseph Nguyen. Lots of reviews, pretty strong opinions. Worth your time. Let's see, What do we have here?
Yeah, whole stack. Looks like Numgin's aiming for people struggling with that, anxiety, self-doubt, self-sabotage thing. Stuck in their heads, can't move forward. And he's promising a way out, but like without all the willpower stuff, which, let's be honest, who can keep that up, right?
Sounds tempting, right? But some of these reviews are, well, brutal about the writing. Repetitive, immature, even some say poorly edited.
Yeah, there's one here, Philippe. He was not impressed. Felt like the author's, personal stories, they were distracting, not adding much.
Okay, so maybe not winning any literary awards,
Yeah.
but is there like a good idea buried in there? Or just common sense repackaged?
The core idea is overthinking equals suffering. Let go of thoughts, find peace. It's very Buddhist, actually. Mindfulness and all that.
So not exactly like a brand new concept.
True. But he's like emphasizing the difference between just noticing a thought versus getting totally sucked in. He says certain types of thoughts, like dwelling on the past or worrying about the future, those are the real troublemakers. He even calls them thought loops that like keep you stuck in negativity.
Okay. Makes sense, I guess. But some reviewers are like, wait, isn't thinking good sometimes? To solve problems, make decisions.
You're right. The book kind of oversimplifies that part. Like there's Roman Weber. He points out that certain types of thinking, they're beneficial. Problem solving, self-reflection, stuff like that.
So it's not about like turning off your brain entirely,
Right.
right? More about figuring out which thoughts are, useful and which ones are just dragging you down.
Exactly. It's about developing what's it called? Mindful awareness. So you detach from those unhelpful thoughts and like cultivate the good ones. And here's the tricky part. The book doesn't really give you like practical ways to do that.
So it's big on the what, but not so much on the how.
Yeah, you could say that. Oh, and then it gets even, more interesting, I guess. It takes a bit of a spiritual turn.
The woo-woo factor.
Exactly. Nguyen starts talking about thoughts being, get this, divine downloads from the universe. Messages from, like, a higher power?
Okay, yeah, I can see how that could be a bit much for some people.
Yeah. Devaguru S., he wasn't buying it at all. Thought the spiritual thing felt forced, no real basis. He even compared it to The Secret, that whole law of attraction thing. Pretty controversial.
Right. But then there's Vidya Thakkar. She actually liked that part, found the reflections and prompts in the back of the book, like, helpful. So it's
It really depends on what you're looking for. It might connect with folks who are, into that spiritual stuff on their self-improvement journey.
So, okay, we have this potentially interesting idea, letting go of thoughts and all. But the execution, maybe a little shaky. Both the writing and this whole spiritual angle.
Yeah, and some folks felt like it could have all been said, faster, like an article, a blog post even. Not a whole book.
Not enough material, huh?
Maybe not. But hey, it's a simple intro to the concept. Mindful thinking, Could be a good start for some.
Okay, a decent starting point, but maybe not a masterpiece. So how does this stack up against other books on, like, mindfulness and managing thoughts? There's a ton of those out there, right?
Tons. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer gets recommended a lot. And Eckhart Tolle, he's huge in this space. They all talk about, freeing yourself from your thoughts, but they go way deeper, more psychological, more spiritual too, and they offer like actual guidance.
So if you're serious about this stuff, those might be better options.
Yeah, definitely. The Untethered Soul, for example, it dives into this whole inner voice thing, that negative chatter in your head, how to like detach from that. And Toll, he's all about being present, shifting your awareness from like thinking to just like being in the moment.
The more concrete techniques, less just like talking about the idea.
Right. And they like explain why it works, the whole philosophy behind it, so you get a much deeper understanding.
Okay, that's helpful. So don't believe everything you think. It's maybe a quick dip in the mindfulness pool, but if you want to really swim, there are better options.
Exactly. And we'll dive into those comparisons a bit more as we go. All right. Back to don't believe everything you think. It's, like we said, kind of dipping your toes into mindfulness. Not a deep dive exactly, but still some interesting ideas.
Yeah, we talked about how the book claims that overthinking is the root of suffering. But for me, the big question is, if you're not supposed to believe everything you think, how do you even know which thoughts to actually listen to? and which ones to just let go of?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, the book doesn't really answer it fully. Like, he mentions these thought loops, right, that keep you trapped in negativity. But there's no, like, clear method for breaking free.
So it's like he's warning you about quicksand, but not telling you how to, get out if you step in it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where those other books we mentioned, like The Untethered Soul, they might be more helpful. Singer, he talks about like observing your thoughts and emotions, but without judging them, like you're just watching a movie. So you're not so caught up in those negative patterns.
So instead of trying to, like, fight the thoughts or push them away, you're just sort of acknowledging them and letting them pass.
Mhm.
So it's like watching clouds go by instead of getting stuck in a rainstorm.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And then there's Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now. He's all about focusing on the present moment. He says, like, a lot of our suffering comes from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. If you can anchor yourself in the now, you can break free from those thought loops.
Makes sense. Like training your mind to focus on what's actually happening instead of all the what ifs and, all that stuff.
Right, exactly. And the book does kind of touch on present moment awareness, but it doesn't really give you any like specific techniques.
So more like a high-level overview, not a step-by-step guide.
Yeah, I'd say so. And while some people might like that it's, simple and all, it could also be misleading, especially if you're dealing with like serious mental health issues.
Like clinical anxiety, depression, things like that. You can't just, think your way out of those.
Exactly. It's super important to remember that this book, it's not a substitute for, professional help. If you need that, get that.
For sure. So I guess what we're saying is it's a bit of a mixed bag. Introduces some ideas, but not the most comprehensive or practical. But some people did find it helpful. What were some of the like positive things they highlighted?
Well, even with, the writing and the spiritual stuff, some people liked the simplicity. It was like refreshing. There's a review here, Books with Sakshi. They said it was a good reminder to, stop overthinking, find peace. It like resonated with them personally.
Right book, right time kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it oversimplifies some stuff, it does make a good point. Our thoughts, they aren't always, true. We tend to believe them without question, and that can like really lead us down a bad path.
Yeah, tell me about it. I've been there, like totally spiraling with negative thoughts. That turned out to be, completely wrong.
And that's where the book's message, it can be helpful, right? It's a reminder to just step back, look at those thoughts, don't automatically buy into them.
But isn't it like dangerous to just dismiss all your thoughts? Don't we need like critical thinking to, actually function in the world?
Oh, for sure. And one reviewer, Gigi, brought that up. They said that, dismissing critical thought and emotional processing completely, that can backfire big time. It's about balance, right? Acknowledging your thoughts, but not letting them control you.
So not shutting down your mind, but more like becoming a more aware observer.
Exactly. And that's where the book maybe falls short. It doesn't like tell you how to do that, cultivate that awareness.
So it might be good for like noticing your thought patterns, but not actually changing them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It's like it gives you the map of the city, but no directions for how to actually like get around.
So while, don't believe everything you think, it might be a starting point. It's not the most effective tool.
Right. It lays out the concepts, but it doesn't really get into the how-tos. And that's where those other books, they come in. They've got more detailed maps, clearer directions, all that.
Okay, so someone's interested in, actually exploring this stuff, developing those skills. Would you say skip this one, go straight for those other books?
If they want more depth, more practical guidance, then yeah, absolutely. Start with The Untethered Soul or, The Power of Now. Those will give you a much better understanding and more concrete techniques for like managing thoughts, getting into mindfulness, all that.
So don't believe everything you think. Like the appetizer. But those other books are the main course.
That's a great analogy.
All right, so we've spent like 2 whole parts going through don't believe everything you think, good, bad, the kind of weird stuff. Time for the verdict, right? Is this book like actually worth it?
Well, it depends, I guess. If you're like totally new to this whole mindfulness thing, yeah, it could be a good quick intro. It lays out the basics, Thoughts cause suffering, detaching from them brings peace.
Right. Especially if you're like into the whole spiritual side of things. Some people love that, some not so much.
Yeah, for sure. But that's like the thing. It doesn't go much deeper than that. It's not really giving you a lot of practical, advice or techniques to actually use these ideas.
Like they show you the destination, but no map to get there.
That's a good way to put it. So if you've already, dipped your toes into mindfulness or you're looking for something more in-depth, I'd honestly say skip this one.
And go straight for those other books we mentioned, The Untethered Soul, Eckhart Tolle, all that.
Exactly. Those will give you a much, much richer understanding and like actual tools to work with.
Okay, so don't believe everything you think. A decent starting point, maybe, but not the ultimate guide to, like, mastering your mind.
Right. More like a taste test, not the full meal.
So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway for people listening who are, trying to figure out their own thoughts, find a bit more peace?
Yeah.
Because that's what we're all after, right?
Absolutely. I think the biggest takeaway here is you have more power over your thoughts than you think. Just because a thought, pops up doesn't mean you have to believe it or let it, like, take over.
It's like those annoying pop-up ads, right? You can click them, or you can just close the window.
Exactly. And the more you practice that, the better you get at, like, recognizing the unhelpful thoughts and just letting them go. It's like building a mental muscle.
So we're not just stuck with whatever thoughts show up, huh? We actually have a choice.
Always a choice. And that's where those other books we talked about, they can really help. They give you different techniques, different frameworks for understanding your thoughts, working with them.
So it's about finding what works for you, basically.
Totally. Experiment, see what clicks, build your own, like, mental well-being toolkit.
Love that. So final thought for our listeners.
Remember, this whole mastering your mind thing, it's not about, getting rid of all thoughts. It's about, like, learning to deal with them differently. You are not your thoughts, right?
Yeah.
You're the awareness behind the thoughts. And from that awareness, you can choose which ones to, like, engage with and which ones to just poof, let go.
Beautifully said. And that wraps up our deep dive into don't believe everything you think. Hope this, gave you some good insights, maybe even inspired you to, like, explore this whole world of mindfulness, thought management, all that.
Happy